On the high hill above Orchard Run, set back amid the trees, sits a cottage known as Green Apple Acre. A solid and unpretentious and pretty rural retreat, refurbished and rented out from a Bolton realty firm. For the last few years, the cottage has been the residence of one Godfrey Webb, a retired local doctor in his 70s, and his granddaughter, Amelia. A fixture of life in the surrounding area for more than 40 years, Dr. Webb was a very well-regarded family physician, known to generations hereabouts and from a long line of his own kind. He was a New England rural doctor of the old school, which is to say, one that knew how to keep secrets. There were certain old families who relied on Webb's discretion. He was also the kind of doctor who would provide certain private and unrecorded medical services for a price. So it was that when Webb retired due to failing health, he did so with more than enough money to live in comfort, giving over his practice and townhouse in Bolton and renting the beautifully appointed Green Apple Acre cottage. His accumulated wealth also extended to paying for his last remaining kin, his granddaughter Amelia, herself having had a somewhat troubled life, to move in with him and keep him company. He supplied her with a generous allowance for her maintenance and a brand new automobile for her to get around in. Their supplies and sundries were delivered by order and paid for in cash. They wanted for nothing. However, their wealth and the vulnerability of an old man and his pale, skittish granddaughter, both living alone and hidden from the world by the surrounding woodland, did not go unnoticed. Hello everyone, my name is Joe and welcome to Stories from the Big Chair, a channel where I regale various tabletop adventures that I have partaken in over the years and share these incredible stories with you in a short, palatable form. This is primarily meant as an audible experience, but I will provide visuals throughout. And if this is the kind of thing you enjoy, please consider leaving a like and a subscribe. It really goes a long way for new channels like this. Thank you. Today, we relive the terrifying encounter Deadlight from the Call of Cthulhu module of the same name, written by Alan Bly, Matt Sanderson, Lynn Hardy, and Mike Mason. This one-shot was played over the course of a night by myself and my friends Matt and Tom, run by Theo. It is set in Massachusetts, New England, some 100 years ago, and tells a story of mysterious intrigue and survival horror. Because of that, prepare yourselves for mature and dark themes, as well as graphic violence and strong language. So sit back, relax, and brace yourselves. November 15th, 1922. Early evening. Despite racing against the rain on their way northwards, the storm has finally caught up with them in earnest, and with it, the night has fallen, abyssal black and riven by lightning. Conditions on the rain-swept road force the car to slow to a virtual crawl so that the headlamps can pierce the gloom and keep it on the path. The only thing certain now is that the weather behind is worse than that which surrounds, driving them onwards. What should have been an eventless journey has become something dangerous and unpredictable. Sat within the automobile are 3 men. Behind the wheel, one Timothy Burr, a prolific antiques collector who often skirts the eastern province of Massachusetts, acquiring rare tomes, artifacts, and ancient antiquities. He is a man in his early 40s of a moderate build, sporting a thinning hairline, circular spectacles, and a 5 o'clock shadow. He primarily operates within the city of Arkham. Sat next to him, a priest, Father David Mathis, a man of mid-30s with blonde hair, a chiseled jaw, and kind eyes. Having moved north from his upbringing in Texas, he now runs an Orthodox church within Arkham, and because of it, has connections all over town. His lack of hope for the people of Arkham is masked behind his ever-present southern charm. Sat in the back, a young man by the name of Christopher Bacon. Chris is a spiritualist, an occultist, some might say, who holds a fascination for all things abnormal. He spends his time and energy researching the occult, and there is no place better than Arkham to conduct such research. A man of his late 20s, he is gaunt, with hair that flops over his face and dark recesses in his eyes. Not a few hours prior, these three men had been invited to the residence of Martin Earnshaw at his house in Arkham. Martin is a collector of oddities, with fingers in many pies all over town. He knows Tim from his proximity in professions, Chris for his similar areas of interest, and Father Mathis from his weekly visits to the church. For one reason or another, all three of these visitors owe Martin a favour which he intends to cash in this very day. He tells them of an auction that is taking place in the adjacent city of Bolton the next day. He himself has prior engagements for tomorrow, and so was hoping that the three of his trusted friends and/or colleagues could visit this auction for him. He wishes to purchase something called a disintegrator. Sounds ominous, but he is willing to spill the big bucks on it if need be. Father Mathis, being the selfless man he is, agrees to go, while Tim and Chris both admit that this disintegrator sounds rather fascinating, so they will go too. They decide that it would be best to travel together, book a hotel for the night, and attend the auction in the morning. Bolton is a few hours' drive from Arkham, so if they set off soon, they'll make it in reasonable time. Martin is supremely grateful, gives them the money, and wishes them all the best. And with that, they hop in Tim's car and set off. A couple of hours on the road transpire until darkness envelops the landscape and the heavens open, ushering forth a downpour so torrential it would be a fitting end to the world. Lightning crashes from behind the dense line of trees which spiral high into the air. What would be a gorgeous rural scape during the day turns to something foreboding in the dark. The trunks circling so high that it is impossible to determine where the trees end and the night sky begins. Without warning, something runs into the path of the car. A pale figure rears up as if from nowhere. As Tim swerves and brakes to avoid hitting it, there is just enough time to realize that the figure is a woman, her eyes wide and her mouth open in a scream. Rearing into the side of the road, now thick with soggy mud, the car screeches to a halt. The woman in the headlights has collapsed, now laying dormant in the middle of the shimmering road. Rushing out of the car, the three men dart to her side. She is a young woman, likely in her early 20s, thin, gaunt-looking, with dark hair and arrestingly wide, pale grey, almost colourless eyes which stare up at the sky. It looks as though she's been running for some time. She is dishevelled, bruised, and dangerously cold, as well as barely conscious and barely coherent. As she whispers and mumbles indirectly, the investigators make out the words, "grandfather," and "the light." Father Mathis tries asking her some questions, her name, where she's from, what she was doing out in the road, but all are responded to with the same incoherent mumblings. "We have to get her off the road, or why she's cold to the bone," Father Mathis shouts through the rain. "I've done this drive many times," Timothy Burr calls back. "There should be a gas station not too far from here. Might be some folk there that can help us out." Carrying her to the car, she is placed in the back with Chris. Before getting back into the vehicle, Father Mathis looks out to the woods where this woman randomly emerged from. Though he sees nothing through the wind and the rain, a shiver is sent tingling down his spine. "May the Lord protect us this night," he says before climbing in. Driving is difficult, so Tim maintains a steady pace, trying to drive as safely as possible, whilst also keeping a reasonable speed in the interest of the young woman's well-being. Speaking of, in the back of the car, and through the consistent prayers for her health coming from Father Mathis, Chris observes the semi-conscious woman. She is clearly not dressed for the outdoors, and she is soaked to her skin. Dishevelled, her clothes are torn from running through the woods, and she has a livid bruise on her forehead. There is nothing on her person that would identify her. However, there is one thing that stands out to Chris. Around her neck is an antique silver chain with a small medal made from what looks like an old gold coin. Taking a closer look, the coin-like medal is inscribed with a series of peculiar symbols, which may be some form of writing. Archaic script like this is an area of Chris's expertise, and he is sure that he's seen this script before. However, perhaps it is the storm or the frantic situation frazzling his mind, but he can't quite put his finger on what it is. Removing the pendant from around her neck, he calls out to the others. Guys, I really think you should take a look at this." "What the hell?" Tim shouts in disbelief, but not in response to the pendant. Instead, he is looking straight ahead. Burning brightly through the driving rain, a lit-up sign reading, "Orchard Run Gas and Cafe," marks their arrival at their destination. The setup here is a modern but modest affair, comprising a single-pump gas station with a wooden-framed office and a parking garage set back from the road. Likewise, a small diner has been built with an outhouse around the side. Though nothing appears amiss at first, Tim's exclamation does not seem misplaced as they draw closer. Slewn across the road at an angle where it has clearly skidded to a halt in the mud is a four-wheeled flatbed cattle truck. Seemingly abandoned, its driver door left open to the elements. The truck is almost completely blocking the road continuing towards Bolton, its wheels half sunk into the mud. Certainly curious. Regardless, the group of them were planning on stopping off here anyway. Pulling up in front of the diner, they get a more thorough lay of the land. There is a single two-seater Ford Roadster also parked by the cafe, and another older Packard lodged by the gas station office. No other vehicles are evident. They observe a few figures moving inside the brightly lit cafe through the windows. However, the rest of the rain-sodden scene is deserted, and the gas station office is shut and locked. Wasting no time, they lift the injured woman out of the car and carry her into the cafe. The cafe is a quaint little stop in the road, sporting plentiful tables and benches, as well as a counter filled with drinks connected to a kitchen just beyond. Signs for special offers on sandwiches and coffee flash up in tandem with the strikes of lightning beating down outside. At the time of their arrival, the people inside the cafe are primarily paying attention to a haggard and bushy man sat at one of the tables, short of breath and a look of fear and harriedness in his eyes. Unsurprisingly, however, the entrance of the investigators alerts the attention of everybody present. 5, to be precise. "Help! We need medical attention now. Any blankets, hot drinks. It's the exposure that's got her," Tim shouts, bursting into the room. Laying the woman down on one of the tables, a man nervously comes rushing over. He is slightly overweight, a bald man in his late 40s with a bad comb-over and a broom moustache that hasn't yet faded to the same grey as what's left of the hair on his head. "Shit! What the hell happened?" he says exasperatingly as he approaches. Father Mathis explains the recent events. Getting closer, the man introduces himself as the owner of the cafe and gas station, Sam Keelam. "Damn," he says, looking down at the woman. "Well, that's old Dr. Webb's girl, Amelia." "Mr. Keelam, sir, we have to get this girl to a hospital. She ain't doing so well. I'm worried she'll die of cold," Father Mathis says. "No can do, I'm afraid," Sam Keelam replies. "It's this damn storm. I already tried calling somebody, but the phone lines are down. Don't fret. I'll look after poor Amelia here. You just focus on keeping yourselves warm till the storm passes. Mary, go grab me some blankets from beside the bar," he calls out. "Fine," a young woman calls back before rolling her eyes and getting to her feet. After somewhat of a fuss is made around ensuring Amelia is kept warm, and it seems as though she's going to be okay, people finally take a moment to breathe and collect themselves. Other than Sam, the owner, and Mary, the waitress, there are 3 others in this cafe. A middle-aged looking man with a great big bushy beard who is shakingly drinking a cup of coffee, and an elderly couple who seem somewhat aloof of all that's going on. They can be heard talking to each other. "So much rain. The angels must be crying." "Ooh, Winnie, did you see that lightning?" It seems the general consensus here is to wait out the storm, hoping that it'll pass soon. The bushy man, after downing his coffee, staggers his way over to Amelia, giving her a concerned inspection before addressing the investigators. "You say she was out running in the road? She must have seen it too. The dead light." his pink, fleshy face contorted into a mixture of anger and fear. Tim skewers his face into a grimace. The what now?
I ain't talking whack,
he shouts back.
I seen it. It's out there.
Sam Keelam intervenes.
Sit down, Jake. Let's get you another coffee.
Jake returns to his seat, agitated.
I wouldn't pay no mind to what Jake says,
Sam relays to the investigators.
He's a hothead, fan of the moonshine, if you catch my meaning.
Nevertheless, Tim's interest is piqued. He goes over to Jake to ask him about this dead light that he saw. Jake is clearly shaken up. Tim learns that Jake is a pig farmer who works just outside of Bolton. He was on his way back there when he saw this terrifying, silvery, dead light through the trees, and that drove him off the road, sending him almost barreling into the gas station. He got out and ran here, which explains the abandoned truck blocking the road outside. When asked about this light, Jake can't give a proper explanation, only that this light shook him to the core, and that he knew he needed to get away from it. Chris and Father Mathis take the opportunity to ask the other folk there about Amelia, feeling somewhat responsible for the girl. The elderly couple, Winifred and Teddy Brewer, know nothing of the girl. Winifred, a gentle woman who is slightly stooped, with thick and curly white hair and spectacles, works as a homemaker. Teddy, a quiet man, balding with a touch of wispy white hair, deep blue eyes and a kind smile, is a retired bank teller. The two of them were simply making their way back towards Boston when the storm hit. Sam Keelam knows more. Being a local to Orchard Run, he knows the people that live around here pretty well. He hasn't had much interaction with Amelia Webb, but he knows that she lives about a mile away from here, through the woods, in a secluded cottage named Green Apple Acre. She has lived there a little while with her grandfather, Dr. Godfrey Webb. He suggests that Mary might know more, considering her and Amelia are of a similar age. Mary Laker, the waitress at the cafe, is a healthy and pretty-looking young woman, likely in her early 20s or late teens. Short in stature, athletically built, with short ash-blonde hair cut into a bob. She seems absent-minded, almost distracted from the conversation at hand. Father Mathis notices her apparent unease and inquires about it.
Oh, I don't know, mister. I guess it's this storm, and people acting all strange. I'm scared.
You knew Amelia, though, child?
Not really. She came by here in a car every now and then to pick up some gas and some food for her old man, I guess.
So you aren't friends?
God, no. I mean, I just didn't really know her, that's all.
Whilst this conversation has been going on, Chris has been flicking through a notebook of his, scrutinizing over the antique chain and medal that Amelia had been wearing, and it finally clicks. The symbols on the medal. This is Aklo script. He recognizes Aklo as an ancient language concerned specifically with the use of incantations connected with the summoning, banishing, and controlling of certain extra-dimensional beings. As a crash of lightning strikes alarmingly closer to the cafe than usual, Chris's attention is drawn to something else outside. Something that catches the corner of his eye. Much to the protestations of everybody else, Chris exits the cafe to get a better look. Squinting his eyes to see better through the aggressive rain and encompassing dark, he sees something. There, drifting through the trees like a tiger stalking its prey. A strange, silvery light, hovering just above the ground like a jellyfish through water. Is it just a trick of the light? Can he really trust his eyes through the storm and the dark? But before he can properly comprehend what he is seeing, a scream pierces through the lashing rain, coming from within the cafe. Amelia is awake. Rushing back inside, the screams are coming from Amelia, who is panicking over her missing necklace. Chris rushes over and returns the medallion to her, at which she calms down, clutching it close to her heart. Tentatively, the investigators and Sam approach her, reassuring her that everything's okay, she's just in shock. She needs to breathe, collect herself, and try her best to remember what happened. Though she is still a little dazed and confused, she recalls running through the woods, running from something. She asks after her grandfather. They tell her that Dr. Webb has not been seen this evening, which leaves her nervous. She is concerned about him. Whether it's the shock of the whole situation, the bruise on the head, or something else entirely, she is clearly in some state of amnesia. She'll need some time to gather her bearings. Some more time passes, during which Tim confesses that he needs to use the restroom. It is in a small outhouse just beside the cafe. It'll be risky, but Tim is willing to brave the storm. Teddy, the elderly man, offers to accompany him. Winifred insists that it's a bad idea, especially at Teddy's age, but Teddy admits that he needs the restroom too. So he and Tim grab a couple of umbrellas and quickly dart outside. Making it around the building to the outhouse, Teddy insists that Tim goes first. He'll be waiting just out here. Inside, more of Amelia's memory is starting to return to her. Father Mathis asks her about her grandfather. She reveals that she and her grandfather, Godfrey, have been living in Green Apple Acre Cottage for a little over 7 months. She initially moved there after she'd gone through some tough times.
I used to get night terrors, you see, real bad, after my parents died when I was 15.
Moving here had been a fresh start for her, a way for her grandfather to look after her while she looked after him, as his health had been steadily declining recently due to a heart condition. He has shown her nothing but kindness. Hearing her return to her senses, it is clear that Amelia is an educated woman with a cosmopolitan middle-class background and a predominantly Bostonian accent. Father Mathis takes a gentle approach when speaking with her.
Why, it sounds like you've been through a lot, my dear. But you're a smart girl, I can see that. So tell me, why did you run into the forest, Amelia?
I'm not crazy, Father. I swear it.
I've just seen some things.
Outside, Tim hears a strange electrical hum whilst he's finishing up in the restroom. As he exits, he calls out.
Teddy, did you hear that strange noise? Teddy?
The old man is nowhere to be seen. Tim hurriedly rushes around to search the area, but all he finds is an umbrella, half melted, and a patch of dirt on the ground being blown away by the wind. Panicking, he heads back inside. Teddy probably just decided that he didn't want to wait in the rain. Squinting hard, Amelia does her best to try and recall what happened.
There was a bright light and a man. Yes, a man with a gun.
Mary Laker, who during this time had been absent-mindedly biting her nails whilst observing Amelia from a distance, rushes over.
A man? What did he look like? I can't remember. Well, try harder.
Mary shouts at her. Sensing the tension, Father Mathis and Sam intervene. Mary insists that she's only asking because she knows a lot of the locals and was wondering if it is a man she would recognize. At that moment, Tim returns, and upon realizing that old man Teddy is not inside the cafe, his face turns pale. Everyone inside the cafe turns to face Tim, as if waiting for him to speak. Father Mathis breaks the silence.
Everything all right, Tim? You look as if you've seen a ghost.
Tim squints his eyebrows and responds.
Now, I don't mean to alarm anybody, but
Where is Teddy?
Winifred calls out from behind the others.
Well, that's the thing. He was with me when I went to the restroom, but when I came out, he's gone. I looked around, but I can't find him anywhere.
What do you mean he's gone?
Oh, Teddy.
Where the hell could he be? He's the deadline. I'm telling you.
A loud crack of lightning shuts them up. The power goes out, and suddenly the cafe is doused in darkness. The cacophony of voices dies as quickly as the light. Blackness. Silence. Sam tries the lights, but the power is dead. The only source of light now is coming from the flashes of lightning outside, more frightening than ever, as the storm only seems to be picking up, not slowing down.
Anybody got a flashlight or something?
Sam shouts to the room.
I got one in my truck.
Jake Burns calls out.
But there ain't no way I'm going out there.
Tim offers to go out with him, but Jake still refuses. Jake,
My son, remember that the Lord guides our hand, and through his grace he will guide yours. Tim will keep you safe. We all need you now, Jake.
Father Mathis's kind words do not quite shake the sturdy exterior.
What of the old man? He wasn't safe. Jake, if you don't get out there now, that frickin' light is gonna hunt us all down. Now stop being a goddamn coward.
Chris's intimidation does the trick, and Jake agrees to accompany Tim out to the truck. Stepping outside, Tim is once again hit with the caustic storm, the wind now even stronger than before, shifting the trees and their branches to and fro like a stadium of adoring fans. Gingerly, they traipse their way towards the slanted truck. Jake speaks.
Now, I can't remember which side the flashlight is in. You go around to the left, I'll check in the right, and be quick.
They split up and flank the truck, yanking open the doors and hurriedly fidgeting their hands across the floors and seats in the hope of taking a hold of something resembling the shape of a flashlight. The rain is lashing down hard on the sides of the truck, making quite the racket, so when Tim shouts out, "Any luck?" through the darkness, he gets no reply. Climbing into the vehicle, Tim instead spots a bright light coming from the side that Jake was standing at. The light appears to be growing, moving closer. His attention turned elsewhere, Tim clambers across the seats, scrambling rapidly until his hands wrap themselves around the handle of a large flashlight. As he does, the light outside maneuvers its way round to the left side of the truck where the open door lies. Grabbing a hold of the flashlight, he scarpers. Heading out the right-hand door, Jake is not there. No sign of him. No sound. Uh-oh. He's not willing to risk his safety and rushes back to the diner, once again entering alone. Igniting the flashlight, he is met with a cold reception. Out of breath, he stutters.
Guys, I'm sorry. Jake's gone. I don't know where, I don't know why, but I'm starting to think he's right. There's something out there. I saw this light.
Hang on a goddamn minute,
Sam interrupts.
2 people go out with you, and both times they don't come back? How do we know it's not you that's picking them off?
Now, Sam, let's be rational here.
No, I don't like this. First the storm, then Jake and his ramblings, then you 3 show up, carrying little Miss Psycho here, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. I think you all should up and get the hell out of here. Take your damn curses and weird symbols with you too. Crash!
One of the windows at the cafe shatters as the wind thrusts a long tree branch right through it, sending glass flying across the room, appropriately accompanied by screams from both Amelia and Mary. The wind and rain now entering the cafe, exposing all within to the violent elements outside. For the first time since their arrival at Orchard Run Gas and Cafe, Amelia stands up and raises her voice, shouting over the howling winds.
Forget all that. We have to get out of here. It's not safe. My granddad. I need to know that he's okay. He'll know what to do. The cottage isn't far from here. Now, I don't mean to alarm you, sweetheart, but how the hell are we supposed to get there? We can't exactly drive in this weather. We'll have to go on foot. You might die out in the cold there. I'm willing to take that risk. We have to find my granddad.
Their shouting is interrupted by an electrical whir coming from the kitchen behind the bar, a crackling noise that resonates like a low hum. A faint light seems to be coming from back there.
Oh, what the hell is it now?
Sam shouts.
Mary, don't take your eyes off these 3. I'm gonna go see what that damn noise is.
Sam heads to the kitchen. Everybody waits with bated breath.
Perhaps we should call the police,
Winifred says through the silence, thoroughly confused at what on earth is going on. A blood-curdling scream. The investigators rush over to see what is going on. Upon entering the kitchen, they see a horrific sight. Sam Keelan lays on the floor, his body propped up by his arms like a zombie dragging itself across the floor. His lower half is missing, and from his eyes and agape mouth, bright light bursts out. His gargled screams are mixed in with a hissing noise which make it sound like his body is getting boiled from within, this deathly light spilling out of the decaying remains.
Stupefied, the investigators look on, unable to take their eyes away. Upon finishing its consumption, turning Sam Keelan to dust before their very eyes, the dead light can be fully seen. In size perhaps 2 meters long, moving waist height through the air with little recourse to gravity, much like a denser fluid flushing through disturbed water. Like a spill of silvery white ink, it radiates a deathly cold light that pulses and flares erratically. It is somehow both sickeningly horrifying, yet beautiful. As they stare in stunned silence, the dead light slinks away, burning its way through one of the kitchen walls as if it was nothing. The investigators rush back to the main cafe.
Sam's dead. What? We have to go. Now!
Setting foot outside is a jarring endeavor. The storm continues to rage on, vision is limited, and the surrounding orchard wood appears to continue for miles. It takes very little convincing to get Amelia Webb and Mary Laker out of the diner. The same cannot be said for Winifred Brewer, who, slow-moving at the best of times, is still confused as to where her husband Teddy has gotten to. Father Mathis takes her arm and escorts her out, lying through his teeth by reassuring her that everything is going to be okay. She just needs to come with him because the cafe is no longer safe from the storm.
What?
Mary stutters through gasps of breath.
The fuck is going on?
Her tears masked by the lapping rainfall. Chris replies,
I really don't know. But what I do know is that we gotta leave. Those markings on your medallion, Amelia, what do they mean? I have no idea,
Amelia replies.
It was just a gift my granddad gave to me, an old heirloom of his. We gotta find your grandfather. Yes, I need to know that he's okay. Follow me, it's not too far.
They set off, back up the road, and not a moment too soon. The start of their trek is accompanied by the ominous electrical hum once again, and with it, the deadlight emerges from behind Jake's truck and begins bearing down on them.
Run!
Tim shouts as the 6 of them take off. Sprinting through the rain is difficult. Not only is vision obscured, but the road is slippery. Trying their best to follow Amelia's lead, they run on. The deadlight slinks along from behind, not cascading towards them at great speed, but hovering menacingly, unimpeded by the weather. The runners need not look behind them to know that the deadlight is still encroaching on their position. They can hear the electrical hum through the storm and see the silvery light reflecting off the wet road. It's gaining on them. Tim and Mary keep pace with Amelia further ahead, whilst the others fall behind. Chris and Father Mathis have held back, attempting to shimmy Winifred along as her old age makes running difficult. The deadlight is close, dangerously close. Winifred can't keep pace. She starts slowing, still wholly perplexed at the entire situation, and calling out Teddy's name through gasps of breath.
Father, we have to let her go.
Chris cries out.
No!
Father Mathis shouts back.
No one is getting left behind. I'm sorry. I can't.
Chris lets go of Winifred's arm and darts ahead, not wanting to sacrifice himself to the light. Father Mathis tries his best to pull Winifred along with him. He can feel the heat of the deadlight on his skin. It's too late.
Come on, Winnie. You got this. Let's just get behind those trees.
Winifred trips and falls. Father Mathis turns around for the first time since they started running, to see Winifred's lower half absorbed by the deathly light which floats dangerously close to him. She lets out an ear-splitting wail. Still holding onto her hand, Father Mathis attempts to pull her free. Light starts emitting from her eyes and open mouth as the priest pulls harder still, severing Winifred's body in half, spewing her entrails across the sordid road. Aghast, Father Mathis lets go of the limp hand, and the dead light moves to consume the rest of the old lady's body. Tears roll down the face of the father as he tries his best to keep his supper inside his stomach. He has seen horrors of the world, but nothing even comes close to this.
Father, we gotta move. The others have gone into the forest. Let's go.
Snapping to his senses, Father Mathis darts back towards Chris, and the two of them dash into the dense line of trees, freeing themselves from the sight of the deadlight. The woods of the surrounding area were once planted apple orchards, as the name Orchard Run suggests, but have since largely run wild and been partly overwhelmed by invasive species like elm and ivy. The results in daylight are picturesque, yet at night and in the storms, the woods are something out of a nightmare. Tim, Amelia, and Mary continue running onwards. They lost sight of Father Mathis and Chris some time ago, but decide self-preservation is more important here. Hoping the others made it into the woods too, they press on in the direction of Amelia's cottage. Running through the dense, gnarled trees is treacherous to the sense of direction, and dangerous underfoot due to the many vines, creepers, and roots that can easily tangle and catch up on a shoe. Mary falls victim to such entanglement with a yelp. Thankfully, Tim still has a hold of the flashlight, so he and Amelia are able to pull Mary to her feet. Her ankle a little bruised, they decide to continue onwards at walking pace from here, now that the all-consuming evil light seems to have vanished. Continuing onwards, they eventually break through the tree line to find a muddy dirt road, which Amelia says will lead them directly to the cottage. Father Mathis and Chris emerge a few moments later at the same clearing, looking haggard, dishevelled, and macabre. They inform the others of Winifred's death. However, there is no time for mourning, as it could just be a matter of time before the deadlight returns. They continue along the dirt road, huddling close together for warmth. Mary seems particularly keen to get to the cottage, although deeply concerned about what they might find there. She always had a hunch that Amelia and her grandfather were weirdos, and Amelia had clearly fled from this place before running into the investigator's car. Amelia confesses that she had fled the cottage earlier that night. As more of her memories return to her, she is certain that she ran, not only from the man with the gun, but from the ferocious light, too. After dragging themselves onwards for another 10 minutes or so, and manoeuvring around the couple of fallen trees, likely felled by lightning, that block their path, they arrive at Green Apple Acre Cottage. The building stands lowly, vacant, and eerily silent. The cottage is a recently renovated, single-storied, old colonial-era property. Behind it sits a small barn, now serving as a garage. A repetitive lapping sound is revealed to be the front door, banging open and shut in the wind and rain. Looking inside, the whole place is shrouded in darkness. Approaching the entrance, Tim spots something on the ground outside. Shining the flashlight down reveals an abandoned crowbar laying in the mud. Taking a closer look, it seems as though somebody has slipped and fallen, dropping the crowbar and leaving a visible skid patch in the mud that has not yet been eroded by the rain.
Just what the hell happened here?
Mary inquires, a look of deep terror in her eyes. Their caution piqued, they decide to approach carefully and tactfully. Amelia recalls the layout of the building. The cottage comprises a small hall, a large reception room, 2 studies, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen diner, and a washroom. There is also a large dry cellar beneath the cottage, in which a modern heating furnace and kerosene-powered electrical generator have been installed. Stepping inside, they take a look around. It is well appointed and well furnished to a more than comfortable standard. Traditional New England rustic tastes dictate throughout. At a first glance, nothing is out of order in the house, save for a whirring telephone line that is clearly dead, just like the one at the gas station. Looking down the main hall, using the limited vision of the flashlight, reveals a lifetime's accrual of knickknacks, gifts, and memories crammed into every available space. There is plenty of evidence of a late wife and a daughter in numerous photographs, as well as a long career as a well-known and well-regarded country physician, judging from the certificates on the walls. It is not until they open the first door on the right, the door to the reception room, that they are met with a sight of true horror. Shining the light inside reveals the site of a massacre. 2 bodies lie dead. One appears to be an elderly man with a thin, heavily lined face and close-cropped white hair. He is slumped against an armchair, his shoulder bloody and his face ashen. On the floor, splayed out like a discarded and broken marionette puppet, lies the remains of a younger man, or rather, half the remains, as his lower half is nowhere to be seen. The investigators look on in horror, unable to look away. Amelia collapses to her knees, sobbing loudly into her hands, while Mary runs out of the house and spews her guts on the ground outside.
Oh, God.
Tim manages to splutter out a few words. Chris, come with me. We gotta try and get the power back on. Father, stay here with Amelia. Chris, the colour washed from his face, is dragged away by Tim as the two of them go door to door, searching for the steps down into the cellar. They enter what they assume to be Amelia's bedroom and study. Having a brief look around reveals that she takes regular sleeping drafts. Also, some correspondence shows that she has recently spent time at the Boston Society for the Care of Girls. Chris recognizes this as an upmarket sanatorium. The papers here show that Amelia has been released with a clean bill of health. The next door on the left reveals the stairs to the cellar. They descend into the foreboding darkness below. Apart from the dust, cobwebs, and packing crates, the only item of interest down here is the domestic electrical generator system. Finding some kerosene nearby, Tim and Chris are able to get the generator up and running again, with a mechanical and electrical whir that sends shivers down both of their spines. Thankfully, this time, it is just the generator making that noise. Back upstairs in the reception room, lacking the presence of the flashlight, Father Mathis and Amelia are plunged into darkness. Father Mathis bends down to console her. I am so sorry, child. Your grandfather did not deserve this. Would you like for me to say some words over him? Amelia musters a weak nod through the sniffling and the repeated, No, it can't be. Relying once again on only the flashes of lightning to guide his path, Father Mathis stumbles his way over to the body of Dr. Godfrey Webb. Reaching the fireplace, he crouches down beside the armchair containing the corpse and is about to utter a prayer when his hand brushes something cold. Stealing his attention, he feels his way around what could only be described as an overturned metal coffer. Perhaps 16 inches wide by 9 inches tall, it is trowel-shaped, featureless, and mounted on small clawed feet. The remnants of an oddly smelling wax seal remain around the edges of its hinged lid. The inside appears lead-lined. There is something distinctly funeral about its appearance, although it seems too large for an urn. Holding this coffer begets a feeling of distinct unease from Father Mathis. He places it back on the floor when he then notices a silky pile of dust next to it. Collecting some of it in his hand and bringing it to his nose, the feeling of unease is only exemplified further. This is not dust. These are ashes. The lights in the room flash on, illuminating the grisly scene in all its glory. Tim and Chris make their way back upstairs. Chris expresses that he wishes to look around some more, so Tim leaves him to it, he himself rushing back to the reception. Upon getting there, he looks at the bloody scene in front of him. Dr. Webb lies dead in his armchair, his shoulder blown open in a bloody, rupturing wound that could only have come from the single-barreled 20-gauge shotgun that they now see lying on the floor next to the body of the young man. The shotgun wound appears to be the most likely cause of Dr. Webb's death. The young man's fate, however, cannot be so easily pinned down. His remains are in a strange and horrific condition. He was a young man, likely in his early 20s, but now his features are contorted in agony and almost unrecognizable. His jawbone and many of his joints have been dislocated. His skin is blood-blotched and blackened, as if his veins had exploded within him, and his eyes are red-black masses of hemorrhage. Severed at the waist, his guts are spilled over the floor, leaving a blood-stained mess on the carpet. The lower half of his body has been reduced to ashes, as if some intense heat had burned him from the ground up. A scene of such intense gore causes the minds of those onlooking to begin fracturing. To comprehend such brutality without overreacting would require a placid mind and a heart of stone. Mary slowly drags her way back inside, now looking upon the horror in the light. Her face loses all color. A hand over her mouth, she looks on in stunned silence, eyes wide. I remember.
Amelia breaks the silence, now too staring at the young man's body on the floor.
I remember what happened.
Chris, scouting out the rest of the cottage, enters what could only be Dr. Webb's study. The room is filled with old personal letters and records, largely out-of-date books on medicine, a small library on the natural history of New England, and a sizable collection of Lepidoptera, moths and butterflies, pinned out in glass-fronted frames hung on the walls. A sturdy bureau, desk, sits dominant in the room. Its drawer is locked, however, requiring a key. Amelia recollects the events of the attack earlier that evening. She recalls that her and her grandfather were in the reception room, making up the fire, when two men, their faces masked, kicked open the door, one brandishing a shotgun, the other a crowbar. They were demanding money, shouting about how they knew that her grandfather had a lot stashed away. Rather than cower or flee, her and Dr. Webb decided to stand their ground. She threw the great poker at the one with the crowbar, and her grandfather, in a surge of adrenaline, wrestled the man with the shotgun. A shot went off, sending her grandfather falling into the chair before she herself was hit over the head by something hard, sending her to the floor. The rest is a little hazy, but she vaguely remembers the shotgun man demanding the money from her wounded grandfather, and Dr. Webb pointing to the archaic-looking metal coffer placed above the hearth. Continuing his investigation, Chris enters Dr. Webb's bedroom. It seems quite ordinary, in fact, everything within pointing to a well-ordered and structured man, with clothes neatly sorted, shoes polished, and only useful, functional items in abundance. Looking more closely, he finds a small, soft, leather-bound pocket Bible tucked away in a sock drawer. Inside the Bible, there is a handwritten inscription in faded blue ink that appears to have been written many years ago. It simply reads, "May God have mercy upon the physician."
What the hell are you talking about?
Mary storms into the room, confronting Amelia.
What the hell was in that box? And you said that there were two men? Well, where's the other one?
Easy, easy, Mary.
Father Mathis chimes in.
One thing at a time. We're all trying to get our heads around things.
Amelia clutches her temples.
There were two. I swear, the other must have run off.
Well, that would make sense with the crowbar and the skid marks out front, Tim interjects.
I don't know what was in there. Granddad had all sorts of old heirlooms. I never asked.
Oh, bullshit!
Mary retorts, panicked.
Your grandfather was into some weird, freaky cult shit, and I bet you're in on it too.
Calm down, the both of you!
The priest yells.
Hasn't there been enough fighting here for one day? Now look, these ashes on the floor, they were inside this box. They could be centuries old for all we know.
Also looks like the box was forced open, Tim says. Likely it was thrown on the ground, hard. At this moment, Chris returns to the reception room, the pocket Bible in hand.
Amelia, does this mean anything to you?
He shows her the inscription written inside. She confirms that that is her grandfather's Bible, given to him by his own father, but the handwriting inside is definitely not his. She is not sure as to the full meaning of the inscription, but does recall that her grandfather once told her that the sins of the physician shall be judged by the Lord alone, whatever that meant. It becomes clear that there is likely more to Dr. Webb than meets the eye. The attack, the strange coffer, the esoteric and ominous findings, the arrival of the dead light, it can't all be a coincidence. Inquiring as to what Dr. Webb might be hiding, Amelia insists that she knows nothing of his strange interests, but she does know that he keeps a small key on his pocket watch fob, although she does not know what it opens. Chris does, however, mentioning the locked bureau in Dr. Webb's study. Finding the key on the pocket watch fob, Chris, Tim, and Amelia head over to Dr. Webb's study. Father Mathis stays behind with Mary, opting to continue searching the room to try and determine more of the events that transpired. The key fits perfectly, opening with a click the locked bureau in Dr. Webb's study. It contains within a few items of interest: $600 in cash, an account book for the Arkham First National Bank containing a balance of $19,000, a pot of funny-smelling wax ointment, and, most notably, hidden under piles of legal papers and professional certificates, a small black leather-bound journal. Opening the journal and reading what is written within sends a collective shiver down the investigators' spines and leaves a heavy feeling of unease in their stomachs. The majority of the journal has been left blank, except for the innermost pages, on which the following passages have been written out in cool and rational, yet shocking terms, painstakingly set in a small, neat hand. It reads, "The useful, if unorthodox, resident of the casket, our sin-eater, is, as far as I can ascertain, no creature currently known to science. Where it came from, and when, I do not know, nor did my predecessors from whom I inherited it, though it is undoubtedly many centuries old, if not more. Its uses have been many over the years, although it has predominantly been employed to rid certain local, socially conscious families of unwanted offspring, be they the result of centuries of inbreeding, unfortunate accidents, or other unwholesome activities. The legality of the creature's use is debatable. Its efficacy is not, even in such cases where death by other means would have proved untraceable. My conscience in this matter, and that of those who came before me, is clear. For many of the children would never have survived regardless, given the deformities or other less obvious abnormalities. As for the rest, the Lord does not suffer such blasphemies to live." Turning the page reveals the next passage, or rather, instructions. "As in all things, safety first. Should the sin-eater escape its confines, then the only way to recall it is to provide it with a suitably prepared patient, such that it becomes satiated and lethargic and willingly returns to its coffer. Inscribe the spiral mark shown in blood, preferably the patient's but not essential, on the patient's forehead. The patient does not need to be a child, but it must be a human and, naturally, alive at the point of contact. Experiments with animals and corpses carried out by my antecedents were, apparently, most unsatisfactory. If the patient is conscious, then they will need to be suitably restrained. Once all preparations are complete, perform the recitation as phonetically transcribed below and permit the sin-eater to perform its duties, after which it will return to its casket. Once it is within, close the lid and seal it immediately with a liberal application of the aromatic wax ointment." On the adjacent page, it shows the symbol required, roughly a circle with a diamond shape drawn within. Following this, the aforementioned recitation is written down, likely an ancient incantation. Its language seemingly gibberish, but Chris heavily suspects its connection to the ambiguous Aklo script he observed on the medallion earlier. Underneath the phrase, it reads the following: "I was taught the sin-eater can be summoned and directed to seek out a person at some distance, if the correct phraseology is used, this being subtly different to the procedure previously noted, requiring modification to the symbol pattern and phrasing. I detail this below, but warn..." This page, describing how to control and send the deadlight against a specific target, has been torn from the book. Besides the instructions is a page on which single letters are matched with dates and 3 to 4 figure numbers. From the stains and smears on this page, it appears the previous page may have been removed due to a catastrophic ink spillage. There are 16 entries in all, and the dates are erratically interspersed over the last 40 years or so, with the most recent date listed being almost 3 years ago, November 10th, 1919. Back in the reception room, Father Mathis finds nothing else on Dr. Webb's person. Instead, he moves on to the young man lying on the floor. He turns his attention to Mary, who now stands emotionless, staring down the hallway, attempting to overhear what is going on in the study.
"Mary, back at the diner, you said you know a lot of people in the area. Tell me, do you recognize this young man?"
Mary looks down at the body with dark, cold eyes.
"No," she says. "I don't."
Though he did not say anything at that moment, Father Mathis was not so sure that Mary was being completely truthful with him. But now was not the time for speculation.
God, no.
Amelia steps back, the realization on her face frozen between disgust, betrayal, and intense fear. Tim and Chris look at one another, their faces twisted with confusion and terror. It clicks with them, the full realization that these 16 entries likely represent a tally of murdered newborns and others by the agency of Dr. Webb and the Deadlight, or rather, the Sin Eater.
Jesus.
Tim shakes his head. Looking back at Chris, his eyes seem vacant, as if there's a little less of him there as when they entered the study. Tim goes to console Amelia while Chris continues scrutinizing over the notes, when something catches his eye.
Guys? I think I just saw somebody outside.
Rummaging through the pockets of the deceased young man, Father Mathis finds 2 spare shells for the shotgun and a wallet. Hopefully, they will be able to identify the body at the very least. The wallet contains a single dollar bill, a gas coupon, and a small folded piece of paper. Unraveling the paper, the priest lets out a short gasp. A slightly damaged but beautiful photograph unmistakably depicting Mary Laker eating cotton candy at a country fair.
Show me your hands!
Father Mathis drops the photograph, revealing Mary standing at the door, a small .22 revolver in her hand trained on the priest. He raises his hands.
Mary, now let's just...
Shut it!
She shouts back before darting out of the room and running towards the study. Getting there, she sees Tim and Amelia in the corner of the room and Chris looking out the window. Upon seeing Mary, gun in hand, their faces are swept with shock.
No sudden moves!
She yells, frequently switching her aim between the 3 of them. Quickly scanning the room, Mary catches sight of the roll of dollar bills resting within the open bureau. Snatching the money, she bolts out of the house, grabbing a set of car keys hanging in the hallway near the front door as she does so.
Billy!
She shouts.
Billy, is that you? Get over here!
With as little as a look and a nod, Tim and Chris run out of the house in pursuit of Mary. She is quick, darting around the house unimpeded by the violent downpour that still rages on. The 2 men follow her out, deciding on a pincer maneuver to try and get to her. Tim follows her round to the right, and Chris circles round to the left, noting as he goes that the crowbar that once lay in the mud near the entrance is no longer there. On the right side of the house, Mary dashes to the outdoor shed which houses Amelia's car. Hopping inside the vehicle, she starts up the ignition. Tim, unable to see much through the dark and rain, sees 2 headlights illuminate the surroundings. The bright lights are pointing right towards him. Mary hits the pedal to the floor, and the automobile takes off. Without a second thought, Tim jumps onto the bonnet of the car with a wet thud in an attempt to stop her. Whatever is going on, Mary knows something, and she is not running away from this. Round the other side of the house, Chris also stops in his tracks upon seeing a bright light, only this light is far worse than the headlights of a car. The electrical whir denotes the coming of the Deadlight, the Sin Eater. It emerges through the trees, burning holes through the forest that mark its path. It is mere feet away from Chris, who pulls a 180, turning back on himself. As he does so, however, his footing gives and he slips onto the sodden mud beneath him. Turning, the silvery glow reflects in his eyes as they open wide with pure terror. The Sin Eater lunges for him. Chris rolls out of the way and, getting to his feet, runs back towards the house, seeing a back door on the porch just ahead of him.
It's all gonna be okay, Amelia.
Father Mathis reassures her, himself having now made it to the study and having glanced at the horrifying truths within Dr. Webb's journal. They hear a clanging noise coming from somewhere further into the cottage.
Sounds like it came from the kitchen,
Amelia whispers.
All right, stay close to me.
Father Mathis takes her hand and they both gingerly make their way towards the kitchen. Amelia mentions that there is a back door in the kitchen leading to the porch. Tentatively, they enter the dark room. The wind strikes them hard as the sound of the storm is ever more present here. Amelia flicks on a light switch, dousing the room in dullish grey hues. Notably, the lights reveal that the back door leading to the porch has been opened, seemingly by force. Before they get the chance to take a closer look around the room, Father Mathis is hit with great force in the stomach by a crowbar.
Screaming, Amelia once again sees the attacker, this time his face not covered. A young ruffian who, in the face, looks a similar age to the dead man in the reception, but is otherwise built like an ox. Broad, stocky, with thick dark hair and bushy eyebrows. She sees madness in his eyes, a wily, dumbfounded look, not too far from sheer, childlike terror. I think they might have found Billy. Rearing up for another strike, Billy stops as Chris appears through the back door, panting and mud-soaked.
It's here!
He exclaims through bated breath before his eyes fix on Billy and his face contorts into anger.
Chris, look out!
Amelia shouts through the howling winds and the priest's coughing. The deadlight appears right behind Chris in the doorway and attacks him. A wispy, bolt-like tendril of convulsing light lashes out, striking Chris across the face, leaving burn marks as it does so. The strike also burns through some of the wooden framing of the door. Chris collapses. A stupefied grunt turns Father Mathis and Amelia's attention to Billy, who appears awestruck, staring at the Sin Eater as if overwhelmed by some mesmeric effect. Before the deadlight can envelop Chris, the two of them rush to his side, grabbing one of his shoulders each and dragging him away from the kitchen, all the way back to Dr. Webb's study, in which they slam close the door and lock it behind them. The Sin Eater now turns its attention to Billy, appearing to have no real rhyme or reason as to who it targets. Billy snaps out of his temporary hypnosis just in the nick of time, and with a loud "Shit!" the young thug sprints away, drawing the hungry light away with him. Back around the hood of the car, Mary attempts to steer left and right in a swinging motion, the goal to try and throw Tim from the car as he is currently blocking her already limited view and thus preventing her escape. Tim tries calling out for her to stop, how fighting each other is not going to get them anywhere, demanding to know what is really going on here. Ignoring his yells and swerving from side to side, Mary now turns her attention to trying to shoot the man in her way. She keeps her foot firmly planted on the ignition, sending the car darting forward, whilst priming her revolver and letting out a shot through the front window, which narrowly misses Tim, flying just shy of his shoulder. Turning around to follow the trajectory of the bullet, Tim notices the thick line of trees encroaching ever closer. Noticing the surrounding forest much too late, Mary tries to swerve her way through the trees, the car still accelerating onwards. Tim jumps ship, leaping off of the hood of the car and landing in a tangle of weeds and mud. The car continues barreling through the woods, ducking and diving as Mary attempts to make her big escape. Getting to his feet and hobbling his way back towards the light of the house, Tim's departure from the woods is swiftly followed by a stunted crash and the beep of a horn coming from further within. Mary is not the priority, however. Tim needs to get back to make sure that Amelia and the others are safe. But as he approaches the house, he sees a blinding light coming from the main hallway, accompanied by a scream. He decides to take a different approach, skirting around to the side of the building, where he finds a window that slides open, leading inside. Inside Dr. Webb's study, Amelia is panicking.
That's him. That's the one that attacked me. They were here to steal my granddad's money. Amelia, dear, we got more important things to worry about right now.
Father Mathis attempts to calm her nerves while simultaneously checking on the conditions of the unconscious Chris laying dormant on the floor. There is still a pulse, but he has been burnt badly. The priest addresses Amelia again.
Focus, child. Do you have any medical supplies, painkillers, anything of the like?
She nods her head with uncertain certainty.
The bathroom. The last door down the hall. Okay, you stay here with Chris. Be sure to unlock the door when I get back.
Through the tears, she nods her head again, and, peeking carefully through the door, Father Mathis darts down the hall and into the bathroom. Hurriedly searching through the drawers and cupboards, Father Mathis finds a conveniently placed first aid kit within. As he does so, the bathroom window slides open, and a drenched, panting Tim clambers his way inside.
Fancy meeting you here.
He stutters as they quickly fill each other in on what has just transpired. Quickly zipping back into the hallway, their rush to the study door is interrupted by an ominous electrical hum as, turning their heads towards the main entrance, they see the Sin Eater making its way back through the house directly towards them. Frantically rapping on the door, Amelia opens it, locking the door behind them. Father Mathis quickly gets to work.
It's onto us,
Tim explains.
Hopefully that door should hold it for now.
As if on cue, a hissing begins to emit from the other side as the smell of burning wood assails their nostrils. Father Mathis does his best to patch up Chris's wounds and administer medicine, accompanied by a plethora of prayers for his health.
Lord, bring this child back unto thee. Now is not his time.
The wooden door continues to be burnt away. Chris's eyes spring open. He coughs.
I'd save your prayers, Father. God has truly forsaken this place.
With that, the Sin Eater crashes its way through the now melted door. As terror grips their eyes, they rush to the window. Locked. Shit. But before they can ponder what to do, Amelia grabs one of the archaic masks that decorates the walls of the study, and with an almighty crash, hurls it through the window, sending shards of glass rocketing into the rain, the bolts of lightning reflecting on their surface as they are carried off by the wind. Right now, survival is all that matters. They rush out of the window, unintentionally splitting the party, two going left, two going right. Following to the left, Chris and Amelia flee, the Sin Eater hot on their tail. Through the rain, Chris shouts to her,
We have to get back inside. What do you mean? The coffer, the one by the mantle. It's the only thing that can contain the Sin Eater. Your grandfather's journal mentions a ritual we can do to trap it. We have to try and stop it before it kills more. Okay, but didn't it say something about a sacrifice needed? Let's just get to the coffer and figure it out from there.
The two of them circle back to the bathroom window and re-enter the cottage, the Sin Eater still in pursuit. Rounding the house to the right, Father Mathis and Tim make it to the front entrance, where they stop. Before they can even call out to the others, Billy appears, the madness shining in his eyes like a rabid dog. He strikes Tim across the head with the crowbar, sending the antiques collector plummeting to the ground. The usual calm rationale and positivity that keeps a priest of God like Father Mathis grounded finally breaks.
You damn fool!
He shouts at Billy through the abhorrent wind and crushing rain.
You caused all this death, all this killing, this monstrosity. This is all your fault.
It's not true, mister.
Billy calls back in a whimper. The gravity of all that's happened finally starts seeping through his broken mind. But Father Mathis does not stop.
I've seen evil in my time. Evil you wouldn't believe. But this, why, there are pits, there are recesses deep in the valleys of hell that are not dark enough to contain the well of your sins. You let that thing free. You brought death upon us all. Do you understand me? Do you understand what you done? It was her.
Billy pleadingly calls back, now fallen to his knees, the crowbar fallen at his side, his tears melded in with the rain.
It's all her fault.
He looks up to see the towering figure looming over him, a silhouette marked by the lightning flashing overhead. Tim gets back to his feet and grabs the crowbar, brandishing it above his head. Not letting his dominance slip, Father Mathis responds.
Who, boy? Mary Laker!
He calls back.
That evil witch! Tell me everything. I swear to you, it was Mary. She was jealous of that Amelia girl, the freaky one. Said that she and her old pa had money, lots of it. That they lived out here alone, no protection, no one to call. It was supposed to be easy. Mary's boyfriend, Clem, she made him do it. He thought it was all bullcrap, but she made him. Clem asked me to tag along, so I did. Why? He's my best friend. I could never say no to him. We've done easy stitch-ups like this before. This was no different, but... Oh, God. What happened, Billy? We got here. The old man and the girl, they were by the fireplace. We didn't expect them to fight back. Clem's gun went off, and the old man fell. The girl was screaming, so I hit her. Then the old man said the money was in the box on the fireplace. It was sealed with something, I don't know, but Clem couldn't get it open. He was mad. We'd already botched it. We couldn't now go back to Mary empty-handed. So Clem threw the box on the floor and opened it and... Spit it out! and that thing came out, and I ran, and Jesus Christ, it started eating Clem up, burning him alive. Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm just so scared.
At this point, Amelia and Chris appear exiting the front door. They have with them the lead coffer from the reception room and the strong-smelling wax ointment from the study. Just for good measure, they also have the loaded shotgun, which they hand to Tim. They explain that both of these are needed in capturing the creature, but, referring to Dr. Webb's journal, it states that a sacrifice is needed to satiate the Sin Eater before it is returned to its prison. There are a few additional steps. The imprinted symbol must be drawn on the forehead of the sacrifice, preferably in their own blood, and an ancient incantation must be uttered. Morbid as it might be, they have all seen far too much death this evening, especially of the innocent. It seems that this is the only concrete way of stopping the Sin Eater from continuing its rampage. They look down to Billy, who is still sobbing on the floor.
Please, Father, I didn't want any of this to happen.
No, Father Mathis says, offering a hand down to the broken young man. You're not to blame here, Billy. Tim steps forward. But we know somebody who is. Bang! A shot rings out through the darkness. Tim falls to the ground, clutching his lower abdomen. Lifting his hand, it is covered in blood. Amelia quickly rushes to his side. Appearing from the woods beyond, Mary Laker trudges her way forward. Her hair messy, her body bruised, her eyes frantic. She calls out,
Billy, you bastard! We could have got out of here. But no, you and your stupid dumbass brain didn't think of that. No, instead, you go get my Clem killed, and now you fucked it all up. And as for the rest of you, nobody moves. Nobody else has to die, got it? Now I'm gonna walk out of here with my money. Nobody's gonna follow me unless they want to end up like that one. Now run along and go have fun with that freak of a monster. Ah!
Father Mathis runs at her. She fires out a shot towards him, but it goes wide. Grabbing the gun, Mary and the priest scuffle, in which he disarms her, now turning the revolver on Mary.
Get her!
Chris yells out as he and Billy run over to Mary to restrain her. Mary attempts to wrestle her way out, but she is no match for the brutish strength of Billy. He screams out as she bites his arm, but he doesn't break his grip.
What are you gonna do, huh?
Mary says amidst the jostling.
Kill me? You wouldn't dare.
Behind them, the electrical hum penetrates the air once again. Having followed Amelia and Chris through the house, the Sin Eater now emerges out the front doors and drifts ever so malevolently towards the investigators. Amelia helps Tim to his feet and they start moving away as best they can, but it is not fast enough. Tim turns and fires out 2 ear-piercing blasts from the shotgun towards the creature, but it does not slow its approach, seemingly unfazed by the bullets. Chris snatches the metal crucifix from around Father Mathis's neck and, using the pointed end of it, draws blood from Mary as she squirms in resistance. Using his thumb, Chris etches the symbol from Dr. Webb's journal onto Mary's forehead, hoping that the rain will not wash it completely away. Tim and Amelia catch up to where the others are at this point, but it is too late. Amelia screams as she is pulled away from Tim by the Sin Eater, which starts slowly convalescing itself around her body. Her screams pierce the sky as Tim tries to throw his weakened self into the creature instead, but just touching the mass of inky light burns his skin. There is no time for contemplation, only action. Holding the journal close to his face and lifting a hand up to the heavens, Father Mathis recites the incantation written within.
Iya! Iya! Hesh Makesh Beni! Sak Mizef Keisi Wenizen! Nakan Wetish Nish Sej Naima!
Letting go of the unconscious Amelia, the Sin Eater drifts past the group of them towards Mary. Her pleas for mercy are drowned out by the monotonous hum of the deadlight as it grabs a hold of her and begins enveloping her body, consuming her. Bursts of bright light shoot out from Mary's eyes and mouth as her body boils and burns away. The skin on her face melting in a mess of blood and fire, the skull beneath disintegrating into ash soon after. The screams stop, and ever so gently, the Sin Eater casually drifts its way into the coffer. Slamming the lid shut, Chris douses the seam with the wax ointment, which hardens in mere seconds, sealing the box for good. Silence. Tim collapses to the floor. He's lost a lot of blood, his wound having stained his shirt all the way through. Chris rushes back inside the house, taking the coffer with him, demanding Billy's help, who seems even more absent-minded than he did before, to carry Tim and Amelia inside out of the rain. Father Mathis looks upon the pile of ash that was once Mary Laker and sees it blowing away in the wind. Some might call it mania, some insanity, and others still might call it clarity. But he feels an intense compulsion to clean himself of his sins, to wash his body from the evil that has taken place tonight. He falls to his knees, tears open his shirt, and screams a blood-curdling cry to the heavens, letting the unending rainfall cleanse his skin. Perhaps his heart still belongs to the Lord above, but his mind fractured, lost to the annals of madness, like many before who have witnessed such cosmic horrors. If there truly is a God up there, he must have taken the night off. Having returned to Arkham following the events of the previous night, life does not return to normal for the survivors. After reporting to the police of the vicious attack that happened to her home, Amelia Webb is taken to hospital to be nursed back to health. After Tim is released from the medical services, he reports back to their employer that started this whole journey, Martin Earnshaw. Tim fabricates a story of how the disintegrator was a hoax. There was involvement from criminal gangs, and that is how he acquired this nasty gunshot wound. For the inconvenience, he is paid handsomely in compensation. Afterwards, he attempts to return back to his everyday life, a new understanding of the value of certain antiques, ones that he will get his hands on. Having had his faith challenged, in the days following, Father Mathis forgoes his priestly duties and instead frequents Arkham's Miskatonic University in an attempt to find out more about what happened that fateful night. He only gets so far, however, as the restricted section of the library is off limits. For now. Chris, having been awakened by seeing in-person proof of extra-dimensional beings and ancient incantations, reads the rest of Dr. Webb's journal, learning things no man was meant to learn. He keeps the coffer and his wax seal with him, and when attempting to learn of its origin, all he uncovers is the confirmation that it is not of this world. He ponders what to do with it, and decides that for now, it will be safest in his hands, a secret to the wider world. 1 week later, Father Mathis receives a letter in the post. "It's time to come home, old friend. Something strange is going on, and I need your help."
Thank you all so much for listening to the story and making it all the way to the end of the video. Be sure to leave a like and a subscribe if you have enjoyed yourselves. When I decided to make this video, I don't think I realized just how big of an undertaking that would be. Writing the script for this one shot alone was longer than my university dissertation. So needless to say, any and all support goes a really, really long way. I've had an absolute blast putting this together, and I have played many more sessions of Call of Cthulhu, as well as adjacent tabletop games like Down Darker Trails, Delta Green, and many more. So if you enjoyed this content, please leave a comment, let me know what things you would like to see, and I will do more of it for you all in the future. A huge thank you to my mates who I initially played the game with, and a thank you to Theo for writing the music used in this video. Be sure to check out his site, New Mythos Music, for plentiful soundtracks for your games, as well as commissioned work. Finally, thank you to you for giving me your very valuable time. I am eternally grateful. And I'll see you all in the next video.